Hello and welcome to Ardagh Group Rugby's CDM induction. Induction should last around about 30 minutes, so get yourself comfortable. And if you have any questions, save those to the end and we'll answer them then. Entry to site. All visitors need to show the COVID lateral flow test slide to the security guard. All visitors will have their temperature taken before they enter site. And day visitors need to sign in at the gatehouse and will need to follow the same process. All contractors will need to sign in and out at the CDM cabin or the yard cabin as well as the gatehouse on a daily basis. COVID-19 control measures. All COVID-19 control measures must be to whilst on site. The wearing of face coverings are recommended. Try to maintain a 2-metre social distance and use hand sanitizer frequently. Induction check sheet. As part of this induction process, you'll need to fill in an induction check sheet. So you'll be asked to fill in who you are, your next of kin and their contact details, just in case you have a problem whilst you're here, who you work for and what work you'll be carrying out, where you're working on site and how long roughly you'll be working there. This will allow Ardagh to initially assess the risk and act accordingly. You'll then be asked to read, understand and agree to abide by your company's risk assessment and method statement. You'll be asked to declare if you're using certain machinery or equipment and then prove your competence, normally by a license or a certificate. You'll then sign the induction form, having fully understood the induction and understood the COVID-19 control measures. If you answer no to any of the questions asked, then action is required before you can work. And all persons must understand this induction and the control measures before entering site. Do not start work unless you have read, understood and agree to abide by the company's risk assessment and method statement that you've signed. Do not use plant, equipment, machinery or tools unless you are competent and you have supplied a competency certificate for forklift trucks, scissor lifts, boom lifts, scaffolds, etc. Personal protective equipment. It's your employer's responsibility to supply you with PPE, and it's your responsibility to use it correctly. Mandatory on site are hearing protection, standard hearing protection only, no musical devices, hard hats only, no bump caps, safety footwear with steel toe cap, steel sole and anti-slip, safety glasses or over glasses if you wear spectacles, high-vis vest, waistcoat, jacket or similar, gloves that are appropriate to the task and activity and as highlighted in your risk assessment and method statement, and any other PPE required for your activity to keep you safe. Contamination prevention. This site is classed as a food factory. Beverage cans are being produced. We need to protect the integrity of the product at all times. So do not wear anything which may cause contamination in the production area. No jewellery, chains, rings, piercings. No watches. No music headphones. No food or drink to be taken into the production area or the services area. Keep the insect screen on the exterior doors closed and check that they are clean when you pass through. Wash hands after visiting the toilet and before entering the production area. Always replace conveyor covers and do not leave any items on the conveyor that can fall into the product or through the mezzanine floor. Airborne dust will contaminate cans and this must be adequately controlled. When working above the production area, be aware of the risk of contamination. and if lines are running near the work area, they should be covered and screened off. Do not use layer pads, pallets, cans, or anything else that's in the production area for anything other than the purpose it's intended. Conduct on site. BBS, Behavioural Based Safety. The site uses a behavioural based safety system called BBS, and it's there to encourage safe working for all. Individuals carry out the observations on each other, including contractors. The results are recorded for monitoring purposes, and anybody can be observed. The person being observed is not named. Cards are available at the entrance to the production area. A complete card can be given to your supervisor or dropped in the box near the CDM and production office. Mobile phones. The use of mobile phones is not permitted whilst you're working or whilst you're in the production area. Main reason for this is safety, but there is another reason where phones now are made of hard plastic and glass, and there's a potential of contamination. This includes checking the time, so don't take your phone out of your pocket. The use of mobiles for personal calls should only be made during rest breaks. Conduct on site. Remember, you have a duty to yourself and your colleagues to maintain a safe working environment at all times. It is your responsibility to ensure that you are working safely. If you do not, then you'll be stopped. Do not indulge in horseplay. All operatives must work in accordance with our site induction, which details the control measures to be adopted in order to reduce the risk to an acceptable level. All operators working on site must have read and signed the induction paperwork and agreed to abide by these, having understood all of the control measures. Certain RDAR policies are applicable to everyone on site. For example, bullying and harassment policy, drink and drugs at work policy, and there are others. Hazards on site. There's a list here of a number of hazards on site, but there will be more. If you're in doubt, then ask your supervisor or come and see the project team. But some of the things on site that you'll come across is noise for sure, flammable liquids, cutting fluids, chemicals, forklift trucks, be very wary of these, HGV movements. Both the forklift trucks and the HGV movements will affect anybody working in the warehouse or in the yard or in the outside CDM area, but it could affect anybody working in the production area as well. High-speed equipment, which could start automatically, potential of confined spaces, working at height or working on the roof, wet slippery floors, plus more, so be observant. Hit-knock device. So wearing of a pad, a personal alarm device, and a high-vis vest in the warehouse is mandatory. The HitNot is a proximity detection system. This technology, which uses magnetics to detect people and traffic danger. Take a pad from the charger and place it in the pouch and hang it around your neck. You need to make sure that you can both see the flashing light and hear the alarm when necessary. When you leave the warehouse, return the pad to the charging area. Please do not take it off site. Do not take it into your car. When you leave site, leave it in the charging area. Chargers are located next to the baler or the finished pallet area. When a pedestrian enters a forklift truck's warning zone, both his pad and the forklift alarm will give 3 beeps and lights to warn of the threat. You will need to be able to see the light. When the pedestrian enters the danger zone, the pad and the alarm will sound and the light continuously until the threat is over and the pedestrian is out of danger. HitNot devices must be worn in the red hatched area shown above. And again, if you're in any doubt, please come and see any of the project team and we'll show you where it needs to be worn, and we'll also show you where you can get the HitKnot devices from. Forklift trucks. Of forklift truck presence around the site. Contractors are not permitted to use the RDARS forklift truck unless given prior written approval. Assume forklift trucks always have the right of way, whatever the circumstances. Do not position yourself within 2 meters of a forklift truck, whether it be stationary or on the move. Keep to the designated walkways. Do not walk through the warehouse or across the yard. Forklift trucks should sound their horn to notify of approach. And please be aware of your surroundings. Operating plant and equipment. Only trained and competent persons with current certificates submitted and checked by our CDM project team to operate plant and equipment. Plant and equipment must be checked in accordance with legislation daily, weekly and monthly, and these checks should be recorded and kept with the vehicle. Plant and equipment must have all statutory thorough examinations and inspection certificates checked by our CDM project team. Keys are not to be left in unattended plant or equipment to prevent unauthorised use. And vehicles be parked safely, and charging cables must not cause a trip hazard. A banksman must be used when moving a forklift truck through the production compartment. Chemicals and hazardous substances. Before you bring any chemicals, substances or mixtures onto site, you must supply a COSH risk assessment and material safety data sheets for each of the chemicals. The material safety data sheet must be available for review at the point of storage, transport and use. Quantities should be kept to the minimum, and chemicals must be stored, transported and used in accordance with the manufacturer's material safety data sheets, and only used by competent persons. Dust and fumes. Welding fumes must be controlled, so control measures must be built into your company's risk assessment and method statement. Control measures must be used to protect all persons from welding fumes. Control measures such as ventilation or personal protective equipment must be suitable and sufficient, and equipment must be maintained in good working order. If you use the welding bay, you must clean the compartment before you leave each day, and permission needs to be sought from the site in order to use this compartment. Silica dust. Silica dust is created by cutting, drilling, planing, grinding, etc. of products such as brick, block and concrete, etc. Control measures must be used to protect all persons from silica dust. Control measures such as extraction, damping or personal protective equipment must be suitable and sufficient, and equipment must be maintained in good working order at all times. So we don't want to see examples of the photograph on the right. It needs to be like the photograph on the left. No dust. Electrical works. Electrical work can only be carried out by a competent and qualified person. High voltage work can only be carried out by an appointed person. Follow the Electricity at Work Acts and Regulations. All portable and transportable electrical equipment must be PAT tested. For construction sites, this needs to be carried out every 3 months. All portable tools must be 110 volts, and working dead is preferred. If working live is to be carried out, a safe system of work for live working must be approved. Overhead working and working at height. Make sure the falling object zone is cordoned off below your works. When working on an open grate flooring, you must have a tarpaulin under your floor to protect the working area and prevent falling objects. All tools and parts must be placed in a box and not on conveyors or other surfaces. If you are using sharp objects, a podger, you'll need to use a tool lanyard attached to your waist or to your wrist. The area must be cleared of parts and debris at the end of each shift. If an area is fenced off or guarded off, do not enter. Fallen objects can cause serious injury and sometimes death. Overhead working and working at height. All working at height must have a risk assessment and method statement approved before work can start. All working at height must have a permit to work. All persons carrying out working at height must be trained, competent to carry out the activity safely. All working at height equipment must be inspected before each use, and all working at height equipment must have a current thorough examination certificate in date. Do not remove edge protection unless permitted by a permit to work. Use the hierarchy of control when you're working at height. So avoid working at height if you can. If you can't, you must prevent a fall from becoming an occurrence. And if you can't do that, then you must mitigate the circumstances in case of a fall. No person should be put in a position where a fall from height could occur. Overhead power cables. So for those of you who are working outside in the yard or access to the yard, you'll notice that we've got overhead power cables. And it's important that we don't go within the accepted distance from the power cable. So the power cable will have an exclusion zone, and we don't want to enter into that exclusion zone. So do not start any work underneath or near to the overhead power cable lines unless you have permission to an accepted set of rams, and if necessary, Western Power are on site. Permission to use plant, MUPs, cranes, forklifts, HIABs, or any equipment which could breach the exclusion zone must be given by ARDA before plant is taken into these areas. Overhead power cables. The red lines on this drawing show the location of the overhead power cables. Ensure that you check the location of your work and ensure that you have all the necessary controls to work safely. If in doubt, ask the ARDA safety. Yard area. There are no pedestrian access within the yellow highlighted area shown on the drawing above. If you need to access this yellow area, you must have a yard permit before you enter. Drivers working within 1 metre of their vehicle are not classed as pedestrians. You must wear high-vis clothing when accessing this area. This includes the walkway. Waste and environmental control. Do not empty any substances into the drain before consulting with the relevant member of staff / project manager. Attention to the signs on waste skips for the correct segregation. Do not mix waste. Inform the shift manager immediately in the event of a major spillage, and any land contamination should be reported to the local environmental authority or to the EH&S team leader / manager. Fire prevention. Smoking is strictly prohibited on site and in vehicles. This includes e-cigarettes and vaping. There is one designated smoking shelter on site for the ARDA people and one designated smoking shelter on site for the contractors. The contractors is located outside the contractor's cabin. You can see it in the photograph on the right. If shelter is full, please wait your turn and remember social distancing. Anyone caught smoking outside this area will be subject to the appropriate action being taken. Do not smoke in your vehicle unless it's off-site, and hot work requires the appropriate permit to work. Hot works. In principle, hot work is not allowed anywhere, including outside, except the welding bay. Before any option is considered, an alternative method assessment form must be filled in and signed by the authorised plant representative, normally the plant manager, engineering manager or health and safety manager. If there is no other possible method other than hot work, then a risk assessment must be completed by the project engineer. A permit to work must then be accompanied and must be signed by the plant manager. When work is completed, the area is to be fire watched for 1 hour. The permit can then be signed off and returned to the site representative. Fire evacuation. If you discover a fire, do not take risks and do not put yourself in danger. Do not attack the fire unless you're trained and it is safe to do so. Raise the alarm by operating the nearest alarm call point and leave the building by the nearest safe route. Close all doors behind you. Report to the fire assembly point, which is located in the upper car park nearest to the gatehouse. Stay there until instructed to do otherwise by the emergency response team, ERT or manager. Please familiarise yourself with all exits and the call points in your work area. Emergency response. There is a fire alarm test every Tuesday at 11 o'clock and you shouldn't have to evacuate. The start and finish of the test will be announced. Know where the exits are located and exits have signs. Intermittent alarm tone means don't evacuate. Continuous tone means evacuate. Do not collect belongings. Report to the contractor's assembly point within the car park. A member of the management, ERT, will say to go back into the building. Accidents, first aid and near misses. Report all accidents, near misses to a coordinator, team leader or shift manager. All accidents must be reported in the accident book. If you see a hazard or have a near miss, let us know so we can take action and prevent this from happening again. The near miss hazard book is located in the production office. If you have an accident or feel unwell, ask to see a first aider. A list of first aiders can be seen in the canteen corridor. If you have or develop a physical, medical condition which could affect your personal safety on site or the safety of others, you must report this to an ARDAR site project manager so that a risk assessment can be made to reflect these conditions. This information will be kept strictly confidential. Housekeeping. Housekeeping is the foundation of safety and it's an important factor for improving safety. Clear work area of redundant items, for example rags, parts, containers, pallets, etc. and 10 to 15 minutes at the end of each day used to clear your area of any rubbish or items that could cause an accident or a fire. Do not store parts or assemblies within the production compartment. Do not cover walkways or access egress doorways. Red card system. Behavioural procedure for the project. Contractors or individuals or companies who clearly ignore the site safety rules described in the site CDM safety induction, construction phase plan, work permit or approved method statement risk assessment will be managed using the non-compliance and disciplinary procedure. The project will operate a two-tier disciplinary procedure on site, namely yellow and red card system. The construction phase plan will detail the safety breaches which fall under the yellow and red card headings. A yellow card will be issued to crews or individuals who breach any of the yellow card non-compliance issues. This will require the crew or individual to stand down for 1 hour to allow the breach to be rectified. Such remedial action may include reassessment of the task, housekeeping exercise, or re-induction or retraining. Where an individual or a crew breaches one of the red card items, they will be dismissed from site for a minimum of 2 working days. A decision will be made between the principal contractor and the client whether this person will be allowed back on site. Lockout tagout. Before any maintenance or engineering work is carried out on any machine, it must be isolated from all energy sources. It's not enough just to switch off the machine. The energy sources and residual energy must be made safe. It must never be assumed that any electrical circuit is dead until it has been proved to be so. Residual energy must be removed and the machine process made safe before any work can start. All isolations must be secure to prevent inadvertent re-energizing. Each person must have their own lock on the isolation. Permit to work. Permits to work are required for the following activities and tasks. General permit to work, which can normally last weekly. Hot work needs to be daily. Access to the warehouse area, this needs to be done by the shift manager or project engineer, and that's daily. Confined space daily, working at height, electrical works, roof access which will be daily, yard access which will be daily, and access into the wastewater compartment. These are issued by RDOT project engineers in charge of you and must be complete, and once complete must be signed off and cancelled. The access into the production area is via the main corridor. You can see that you'll pass the canteen on the left and the male toilets and changing rooms on the right. These are not the toilets that we'll be using. We will be using the ones in the contractors' porta cabins. Once you turn that right, corner, you can see that there is a visitors' hygiene area where you can wash and dry your hands, but you can also get the blue tape to put over your wedding ring if you need to. Once you turn left there, you'll see that the production office is on the left and the hazard/near miss book is located in here. It's also the access into the first aid room. Welfare facilities. Welfare facilities to you and where. So toilets are within the contractor's welfare facility, porta cabins. Washing facilities are within those toilet areas. Food and eating facilities are within the contractor's welfare facility only. Drying and changing facilities are within the porta cabins as well. First aid is within RDAR site and a kit is available in the project office. And the accident book is available within the project office too. Canteen facilities. The canteen is available to you only at the stated times. See the notice near the canteen entrance. Do not consume food or drink in the canteen. Instead, use one of the contractor's porta cabin canteens. Do not crowd the canteen and if necessary, return later when it's less crowded. Do not enter the canteen in dirty, oiled clothing. Your induction presentation is now complete. Any additions or changes to this induction will be presented to you by the person completing your induction process. And if you have any questions, now's the time to raise these. Thank you for your attention.